Hello friends, welcome back to the lecture series on earthquake resistant design of structures. Uh, Today we are going to start with a new unit that is regarding the discussion regarding the different methods of analysis for earthquake resistant design of structures. Now, before going to the method of analysis, it is important to understand the design philosophy uh, based on which the earthquake resistant design of structures is to be done. Right? So we will start with the basics pertaining to the IS 1893 Part 1 that is discussed in the Indian Standard Code, and further on in the coming lectures we'll be discussing regarding the methods of analysis in the different clauses that are highlighted in the code. Right. So during this discussion of ours, the different Indian Standard codes that we are going to discuss is IS 1893. That is the criteria for earthquake design of structures, IS 4326, that is the code of practice for earthquake resistant design and construction of buildings, IS 13920, that is the code for ductile detailing, and SP 22, that is explanatory handbook on codes for earthquake engineering. Right, so we are going to take the references from these four codes during this lecture series of different methods of analysis for earthquake engineering. Right, so coming to our start with the basics of the uh, design philosophy. So when you talk about the design philosophy, then first of all we need to understand the different parameters based on which the response of the structure is going to be dependent. So if you talk about the response of the structure that is going to be there during the time of earthquake, that is dependent on a couple of very basic parameters, wherein these parameters are highlighted here as can be seen on your screen. The first parameter is the natural frequency of the structure, which is dependent on the mass and the stiffness. Now this parameter is very important, right? As we know in case of structural dynamics also, that the natural frequency is directly related to mass and stiffness. That is omega is equal to under root of k by m, right? So if mass is more, then natural frequency is going to be more. If mass is less, then accordingly the frequency is also going to be different. Then frequency content of the earthquake. Frequency content of the earthquake will be dependent on the time period of the earthquake, right? Then amplitude of the earthquake, duration of the earthquake, ductility, damping characteristics, and structural integrity. Right? Whether the structure is ductile or not, for what duration the earthquake is taking place, depending upon the duration, the amplitude will be there, whether it is going to reach the resonance or not, that is also going to affect. Then, depending upon the type of the material, the energy dissipation is going to be there. So, the earthquake IS 1893 is giving you different damping factors for different codes, for different types of materials, that is RCC, steel, brick, composite structures. So, depending upon the material, the damping characteristic will be there. And last is the structure integrity, which is also very important. That is based on the strength and the stiffness part. Right. So these are 7 basic parameters based on which the performance of the structure is going to be there during the time of the earthquake. Now, the structure response depends on two basic characteristics. That is, first is the input motion, and second is the structural properties. Right. So when you talk about the input motion, then in case of input motion, we'll be having certain uncertainties. Right. So what are these uncertainties? That is when and where the next earthquake is going to take place. That is, we cannot predict when the next earthquake is going to be there. What is the intensity of this earthquake? That is also we cannot predict. On which fault line it is going to occur? That is also not under our control. What shall be the magnitude of this next earthquake that is going to be there? That is also very difficult for us to predict. And effect of travel path on shaking at a distance. Now that is also very important, right? We have seen, because different layers are going to be there beneath the structure that is going to be there. Right? The soil profile is going to be very, right. So from the point of focus to the surface of the earth, this focal depth that we know, that is the distance between the focus to the epicenter distance, is known as the distance between the focus and the epicenter is known as the focal depth, right? So by the time this seismic wave reaches from the focus to the epicenter, then there it is going to pass through so many earth layers, right? And different earth layers are going to have different intensity and different properties. So all these layers will not be able to pass through and reach the earth surface. Only few will be able to pass. So that will be different. That will affect the travel path also. An effect of local geography, local geology, topography, and soil profile, that is also going to affect the input parameters that are going to be there. So when you talk about the input parameters, there is a lot of we can say that there is a lot of uncertainty or incomplete data with us as far as the input parameters are concerned. We can control the structural properties because based on the span, length, load, type of structure, we'll be able to decide the structural properties, right? To start the process of designing. But when you talk about input motions, then we have very limited information on that, and as a result of that, we'll have to go by the assumptions or go by the bylaws or the thumb rules that are laid down by the Indian standard, right? So now what happens is that since what is going to happen is that there is lot of we can say incomplete data as far as input motions are concerned, then the question that comes to our mind is what is the exact magnitude or exact intensity for which a particular building should be designed, right? So code is talking about basically two types. First is the maximum credible earthquake and second is the design basis earthquake, right? So maximum credit, the most severe earthquake effects considered by the standard, that is 500 years written period, that is 2% possibility of occurrence in 50 years, right? So maximum credible earthquake is the maximum for, as you know that the code is being divided into 5 different seismic zones. So now depending upon the location of our structure, what is going to happen is that depending on this location, what we can do is we can study that what is the highest intensity or the highest magnitude of earthquake that we've experienced in the past. So does that mean that all the other structures in this periphery or the vicinity should be designed for the same thing? But what happens is that if you go by that rule, then what happens is that today what is going to happen is that the sizes of the structural elements are going to be very huge. And if the sizes are going to be more, then as a result of that, the costing of the structure and the economy is going to be hugely, right? So when you talk about maximum credible earthquake, then as a result of that, what is going to happen is that first possibility is that logically we'll have to think is that is only 2% possibility of occurrence in 50 years. That is 500 years of return period. So for something which is going to happen only once in a while, we cannot design our structures to be uneconomical throughout the life. So as a result of that, the code has given us an alternative, and that is you go for design basis earthquake. That is, it is the earthquake which can be reasonably expected to occur at least once during the design line of the structure. That is 10% possibility of occurrence in 50 years, right? So if you take into consideration the design basis earthquake and you design your structure based on that, then it is going to be an economical design, and it is also going to be a viable option that you can expect that at least one earthquake of such magnitude is likely to occur during the lifespan of the structure, that is 50 to 75 years. Now the objective, what should be our objective of earthquake resistant design? That should the structure be designed to withstand strong shaking without sustaining any damage, right? First reason is that if you talk about maximum credible earthquake, and if you design for that, then what is going to happen is that it is going to withstand worst shaking and it should not undergo any damage. If you want to design that kind of a structure, then it is going to be too expensive, right? Because costing will be very high. It may be more logical to accept some damage in case of strong shaking. So the better idea would be to accept some damage and control this damage. However, loss of life must be protected even in case of strong shaking. Right? So the basic objective based on which the IS 1893 design philosophy is developed is that under no circumstances the structural failure should be there, and structural failure should be such that the collapse of the structure should not happen. Right? That is what the design philosophy of IS 1893 is there. Right? It should allow the time for the people to move out from the place, and the total collapse of the building should not be there. Damage is accepted, non-structural is accepted, structural is accepted, but total damage is not accepted. Right? So earthquake resistant buildings. So we can classify the above discussion or about argument into two categories. First is earthquake resistant building, and second is earthquake proof buildings. Right? So in earlier days, if you remember, then there were hoardings on the several real estate schemes that we have. Our building is going to be having earthquake proof buildings. So whenever somebody is saying earthquake proof buildings, then you can say that earthquake proof buildings are never possible, right? Earthquake proof building is that it is going to be designed for maximum credible earthquake. That in the case of the worst shaking, also the building will not undergo damage. So that is not going to be possible, right? So the objective of earthquake resistant design should be earthquake resistant buildings rather than earthquake proof buildings. That is, the building resists the effect of ground shaking, although they may get damaged severely, but they should not collapse during a shock or during a storm. And earthquake proof buildings suffer no damage at all even during strong earthquake but rare earthquakes, right? So The earthquake resistant building design is a realistic approach, and earthquake proof building is an unrealistic. And the code has accepted a realistic approach, that is the earthquake resistant building. Right? The maximum earthquake that can be experienced at the site once during the lifetime of the structure is known as the design basis earthquake. And for this design basis earthquake, only these buildings that are these seismic parameters that are defined under IS 1893 are used, and the design of the building is to be done accordingly. That is, the building resist minor earthquake with non-structural damage, should resist modern earthquake, moderate earthquake with some structural damage but without failure, and can fail at most severe earthquake but with sufficient warning. Right? So three different categories, that is the minor earthquake, moderate earthquake, and strong earthquake, are defined by the are defined under the design philosophy of IS 189. So that is, they are saying that in case of minor earthquakes, the damage is allowed, but damage is allowed only in non-structural element. In case of moderate earthquakes, the damage is allowed in non-structural element as well as structural elements, but the damage in structural element should be such that it should be controllable and repairable. And third category is the damage in the severe earthquake cases, where the damage in structural elements is a possibility, and it is irreparable damage is also possible. But in that case also, the structure should not collapse without sufficient warning. That sufficient warning should be given so that the people can be evacuated. The loss of life and loss of property can be reduced to a maximum extent. Right? So that is the basic design philosophy based on which the design of structures is being proposed by IS 1893. Right now, this is a seismic zone map of India, as you can see over here. Right? This zone map, initially, if you refer the preface of IS 1893, then it was there that it was what you can say classified. The entire country was classified into 6 zones. Then later on, after certain earthquake took place, the code was revised and it was reduced to 5 zones. Now, majority of the region is covered under 4 zones. Right? So zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and zone 5. Zone 1 is eliminated totally. Right? So this is the seismic map of India, where the 4 zones are there and they are shown with different colors. Right? And the calculation is based on the concept that whenever mass is going to be there, and as a result of the mass, the inertia force is going to be there, and that inertia force is given by F is equal to m into a, that is mass into acceleration. And acceleration is given by A is equal to Z into G, where Z is the zone factor that is classified in the IS 1893 code based on the different zones, that is zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. We will see in the next slides the values of the zone factor, which are ranging from the value of 0.1 to 0.36 depending upon the different zones. That the varying geology at different locations in the country implies that the likelihood of damaging earthquake taking place at different locations is different. That is based on the different topographical conditions, the different type of damages are likely to take place. Thus, the seismic zonic map is essential so that the structures located in different regions can be designed to withstand different level of ground shear. The seismic zoning map is revised time to time based on the experience gained over the past occurrences of the earthquake. Right? And still the possibility is that in the times to come, the seismic zoning map is further likely to be revised and the entire country will be classified under 3 zones. That is also a possibility in the coming. Thanks for watching the video. In the next session, we will continue with the method of